Okay, let's walk through configuring PPP with authentication. So I have three routers here, and I'm going to configure PPP from R1 to R2, and we're going to use PAP authentication. And then I'm going to configure PPP between R2 and R3 using CHAP or CHAP authentication. So let's start with R1. By the way, these devices have just come out brand new. There is nothing on them, so we are going to start from scratch. Now I'm only going to focus on the components that are necessary for PPP with authentication to work. I'm not going to worry about the rest. So I'm going to go to privilege exec mode and then global configuration. Now, the way PPP with authentication works is with PAP authentication. PAP is an insecure protocol, actually. So we are going to use PAP authentication just so you can see how it works. CHAP is much better. So with PAP, we need to configure a username and password on both sides. And so I'm going to use, just to be generic, I'm going to use Fred and George. So this one is going to send the username Fred to R2, and it's going to expect a username George back from R2. So what I need to do is I need to create a user named George, and we'll use password of Cisco, and that's what we're expecting from R2. Now obviously I would probably want to encrypt this, but I'm not going to worry about it at the moment. So let me go to interface serial 000, which is our connection to R1, and I'm going to set an IP address, 172.16.1.1. And we're going to make it a /30. Now I'm going to configure all of my PPP configuration before I bring it online. Now remember, HDLC is the default encapsulation for Cisco routers. So if I just wanted to leave HDLC, all I got to do is not do anything and it'll run HDLC. But I don't want to, I want to use PPP. So I have to issue the command encapsulation PPP. Now, PPP has a bunch of options. I can use as many or as few of them as I want. So I could use multi-link, I could use compression, I could use authentication. However, Packet Tracer really only supports authentication, so that's the one we're going to do. So the command is PPP authentication, and then I've got to specify which one. And I want to use PAP for authentication. Now, because I'm using PAP, I have to tell it what username and password to send to the other router. So it's PPP PAP sent username. I'll just tab it there so you can see the rest of it. I'm going to send Fred with the password of Cisco. All right, now that I've got my encapsulation configured, I'm going to issue the command no shutdown. Now, you don't always have to wait till the end to do that. However, it may create a problem for you. We'll talk about that here in just a second as we're looking at R2. So I'm going to hop over to R2 here. And no, en config t. And so the first thing I need to do is I need to set the username and password. And I'm expecting R1 to send me Fred. So I'm going to create user Fred pass Cisco. And then I'm going to go into interface serial 000. And I'm going to set my IP address 172.16.2.1. Let me try that again. 1.2, that'll work better. /30. Now, if I do a no shutdown right now, what'll happen is this side will be using HDLC, the other side will be using PPP. They won't work. The line will come up, but the line protocol will stay down. Anytime there is on a serial interface, if you have a line protocol misconfiguration, so you're using different protocols, you have mismatched authentication, you couldn't authenticate, you got mismatched compression, or multi-link options, anything that would cause that to break, what will happen is your line will be up and your line protocol will be down. And if I do a no shutdown now, that's what's going to happen because I don't have my encapsulation and my authentication correct. So I'm going to do encapsulation PPP, and that will tell it use PPP. Now it still won't work because I don't have my authentication set right. So I'm going to do PPP authentication PAP, and that will tell it to run PAP authentication. Then I need to tell it which username and password to send to R1. So it's PPP PAP sent username. And I'm going to send George, because that's what R1 is expecting, with the password of Cisco. And now I'm going to do no shutdown, and it tells me my interface came up and then my line protocol came up, and that's what I want to see. Now if you don't get that right, let's say you didn't get your configuration right, your line comes up but your line protocol stays down, and you're going to see that by issuing the command show IP interface brief. And right here, if your line protocol stays down, all you've got to do is go in, fix the protocol, turn off the interface, shutdown, turn it back on, no shutdown, and you should come up just fine. Ultimately, you should see both of these up, and then you should be able to ping the other side, 172.16.1.1. Perfect. PPP authentication, or PPP with PAP authentication, or PAP authentication, is working great. Cool. Now, let's do CHAP between R2 and R3. Now, CHAP is a much better authentication methodology. But there's a difference in the way we configure it. So with PAP or PAP, I have to tell it what username and password to send, and then I have to create the username that I'm expecting to get from the other side. Well, I kind of have to do the same thing with CHAP, except there's one big difference, and that is I don't tell it which username and password to send. Instead, it's going to use the host name as its username, and then the passwords between the two have to match. So this is how this is going to work. I'm going to set my host name to R2. I'm going to create a user for R3, and I'm going to go ahead and encrypt this one, secret Cisco. All right. Now I'm ready to configure the interface. So it's interface serial 001-1. There we go. And IP address 172.16.1.5/30. So it's encapsulation PPP, PPP authentication CHAP. I don't have to set my sent username here because it's automatically going to assume that it's going to take the host name as its username. So all I have to do is no shutdown to bring my interface up. Now, interface changed state to down because the other side isn't configured. Let's go ahead and fix that real quick. So we're going to go to R3. And nope, don't want to do that. In config T. So I'm going to set my host name to R3, and I'm going to create a user R2 with an encrypted password, so secret of Cisco. Now I'm ready to configure my interface. Interface S000, IP address 172.16.1.6/30. Encapsulation PPP, PPP authentication CHAP, no shutdown. And this is what I should see. Interface comes up. I see somebody on the other end. Line protocol comes up, means I can talk to somebody on the other end. And show IP interface brief. And we should see up. And then just to confirm, I should be able to ping 172.16.1.5. Okay, we have configured PAP with both, let me try that again. We've configured PPP with both PAP or PAP and CHAP or CHAP authentication on two different connections. Now, this is just a little bit of what PPP can do. PPP is a very cool protocol. Multilink will allow you to take multiple connections, bind them into one logical connection. We can do compression to try to get better performance. PPP is a very cool protocol, but Packet Tracer doesn't support all the cool tools, so we're just going to do these two and show you how the authentication works. All right. Hope that was helpful, and now you can configure PPP with authentication on your own.